people don't realize how problematic it is to have this sort of big tent, just big tents, like no ideological litmus test for any organization or party, and that's what Democratic Party is keeps priding itself on, right? Well, and before it was just generally opposing Republicans, but now it's opposing Trump and Russia. That is the only criteria for joining this huge tent that they want to construct within the political system, a huge voting block. And it's so problematic because it means that they lay down with dogs all the time. They retweet David Frum. They retweet anyone who says anything even mildly critical of Trump with no regard for what that person stands for or does done in the past. And for the shysters out there, for the people out who are looking to get back into the public light and because let's be honest, it's profitable to resist Trump. It's very profitable to oppose Trump. But that's why the media does it.
Yeah, and I just want to say quickly that you can organize and have a large tent and around something like a single issue, but it being opposition to a person is a terrible thing to organize around. That just fundamentally won't work. But go ahead, make whoever's hopping in there.
Well, I was going to say with Brandon, to back up Brandon's point, this is the same group of people that during the primary was trying to rehabilitate Henry fucking Kissinger. These are not logically consistent people or ideologically pure people. I mean, they have an ideology, they just don't want to admit what it is. And I don't know. I find it hard.
Yes, of course they know what it is. It's not that they don't know. It's that people like this literally cannot admit what it is. And here's the simple fact of the matter: is that, and again, and I've said this numerous times, and I'm sure I will continue to say this. I said it even in an article that I wrote. What they want is equal opportunity imperialism. They like Clinton because they get to move forward on social issues, but they move forward only on issues that affect white people that happen to also be members of marginalized groups. They want the privilege that comes with the kinds of things Trump is talking about. They just don't feel that it's okay for Trump to go out and say it publicly. So they feel, well, as long as I oppose what he's saying, but not in essence what he's doing, everything's okay. They share the same ideologies.
And quickly on the point that Brandon, you were making, and that's in both of your articles, I believe, especially in Brandon's, but just also you said the homophobic, but also the xenophobic attacks. Like now being Russian basically makes you a bad person as a result of this whole Trump-Russia connection. And so like we're throwing away liberal values, or people are throwing away liberal values in order to make insults and attacks.
Well, okay, I would say there are no such thing as liberal values. Liberalism has always been a very vague ideology, and I think Adair hit the nail on the head, right? So what we're seeing with Trump and the Democratic Party, or Trump in the resistance, is just even more hyper-focused form of tribalism, right? So before it was like, Democrats versus Republicans, right? So as long as you were a Democrat, whatever you said or did within the bounds of reason, with a wide berth, because we have people like Manchin and Hype Camp, and we have anti-choice Democrats, we have racist Democrats, we have like we have anti-LGBTQ people Democrats. Those you don't succumb to the urge to say the N-word on television. You can pretty much be a Democrat. And even if you did that, they might just bleep you out if it's on MSNBC and claim you said nagger. But so, the point becomes, it's like we've seen that the parties had already devolved into this antagonistic relationship with one another, more so the Democrats and the Republicans. And I think that there was on Face the Nation, they had a really good panel about this, where some guy was just like, well, the Democratic Party needs the Republican Party because they let them dictate the pace. The Democratic Party just positions themselves as the less bad party, and so they don't do anything proactively anymore. And so we end up in a situation where the Democratic Party is so heavily reliant on what the Republican Party being bad, they can't lead us towards anything. As the leadership. And so this idea of resistance, as John has said before, is so defensive because that's all they can be. Or that's how they define themselves, reactively. They're a reactive party. It wasn't just Kissinger, but it becomes even more problematic now, because it wasn't simply just you have to have a D behind your name to be a Democrat or be one of the good guys. Now it's simply you can have an R behind your name, but as long as you're against Trump. And I know I'm going on for a long time, but I just have one more thing to say, and then I'll open it up again. And this is indicative again of the Democratic Party's failures, right? On our road towards Trump. Yeah. Insofar that still have not made the Republican Party responsible for Trump. They have still not gone out to say, you know what, Trump is not an anomaly. Like Trump is the next logical step of the Republican Party. You know, me, an intellectual, says, well, no, Trump is the next logical step of the two-party system. You're both responsible for this little motherfucker right here. But they won't even say, hey, you know what, Paul Ryan, you're just like Trump. Lindsey Graham, you're just like Trump. John McCain, you're just like Trump. Markey, you're just like everyone. They feel you're just like Trump, because they want to still pull those Republicans in. They still want to construct their constituency out of the center, and Russia is a good way to hide that they don't have a constituency.
Right, but that gets back to what I was saying.
Not a proactive one.
Right, but that gets back to what I was saying before the show with you guys. It's like they have this campaign strategy that worked for Bill Clinton against George H.W. Bush, which is we're going to steal the center and the disaffected Republicans who are okay with gay people and who aren't racist. And it's kind of like, well, you're capitulating so much space in terms of ideology, especially when we start talking about economics, that's led to the situation where we have so many materially disaffected Americans in this country, where 50% of the population is poor or living in poverty. And what happened with Clinton was an aberration. It wasn't the norm. He convinced Ross Perot to enter the election, who took 20% of the voting population, which allowed him to beat George H.W. Bush. And on top of that, you had the tech boom, which was completely inflated and at the same time pushed our economy at a much faster rate, because there was incentivized gambling due to deregulation, which caused all of these bubbles. So like you have this string of almost lucky breaks that happened to Bill Clinton, but that's that electoral playbook that he ran of, we're going to go to the demographics and we're not really going to talk about ideology or what we really stand for or make any proactive stands because that will piss off somebody. We're going to try and be a big tent, has failed at this point because it's just completely see-through. And the right has just gone so far to the right that like I keep saying, Trump didn't win with a whole swarm of new people. He had the same amount of votes that Romney did plus population growth. So it's not like this is a winning strategy for the Democrats. This is just the producers.
No one's talking about what. No one's talking about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I saw a comment in chat about the party. The Democratic Party is not going to be progressive from its teeth to goer. They're not going to be progressive until progressives fight tooth and nail for the voting booth, and basically that there needs to be accountability on both sides. That we're not showing up to the voting booth to hold our politicians accountable. One thing I wanted to point out is when it, like you mentioned, or John mentioned at the top of his comment, that like 50% of people are living in poverty, and if you look at the people that don't vote, it's mostly impoverished people. And if you look at the reasons that they don't vote, it's either that they don't have somebody to vote for, or their vote doesn't matter, or they can't get to the voting booth because they're working, or one of the variety of other things that prevents them. Those are the top three reasons for them. And so when they're not showing up, all three of those are accurate. There isn't anybody for them to vote for, and they are working and they're unavailable to get to the booths oftentimes because of the ridiculous way we hold votes, especially midterms where less people are paying attention and they get less coverage. And I saw other people react, so I'll let you guys get in with some points on that, responding to
I want to hear it, Derek.
Yeah, please.
Real quick, especially on that, the Democratic Party will never be liberal. Accept it. Understand the fact
they will be liberal, not left. You mean?
Yeah.
No, they're not even liberal. There is no such thing as liberalism in the United States of America. Everything is to the right. When you're economically to the right, it is impossible to be truly liberal. Understand that. Also understand that the Democratic Party is not a party of the people. They're not a party of the Big Tent. They're not a party of anyone who's opposing Trump. They are the party of wealthy white folks, and that is it. Understand they don't give a damn about you unless you can give them $10,000 in an election cycle. Understand they don't give a damn about you unless they can make tons and tons of money off you. Understand they don't give a damn about you. Why do you think they opted out? So many Dems voted to opt out of, to exempt Congress from the passage of the AHCA. Why? Because again, and let me reiterate this for you, they don't care. They're not the left. They're not liberal. They never will be. Moving forward from that, most people that vote Democrat cannot even call themselves moderate. I see so many people saying, well, I'm a Dem, I'm a lib, I'm to the left, or I'm moderate, wishing people will die without lack of health care insurance just because they happen to vote for Donald Trump. Are you serious? Well, that's your big tent. That is your compassionate part of it. No.
Well, I think we can all agree that Marcos Mustafa or whatever his name is a piece of shit. Molitsas. Sorry,
Marcos Molitsas is a piece of shit, but he's not a unique piece of shit. Just like Donald Trump is not a unique piece of shit. And I think that was the biggest contribution to the conversation that Bernie Sanders offered during the primary season, that it kind of fell off. Right, the Republican Party is not uniquely racist. Right. And this is how the conversation gets co-opted by Democratic Party, because you see these constant articles about, well, it was really cultural anxiety. It was actually racism that fueled these things. It's like, yeah, but what you think is underlying that, right? So Adair makes a good point. And yes. When that bears, really exploring, and it's that the Democratic Party, and this is combined both your points, right? The Democratic Party has convinced themselves that they're popular. They're that rich kid at the party, a rich kid at school who thinks everyone likes them. But they don't realize that everyone is either afraid of the fact that their father is owns the copper mine that everyone works at, or they're just using them. And so they've convinced them that they have this strong base. She's the popular vote president. Like look how many people, but no one is voting for you. They're voting against the Republican Party. And I think at a certain point, maybe not the high level, but that mid-range level, they forget that people don't actually like them.
Yeah,
they forget that people on the left, a large part of their base does not like them, and we've been having a lot of conversations about why Donald Trump won, but we need as Bernie Sanders had said, we need to have a conversation about why Democrats lost, right? And part of that is they don't stand for anything. They define themselves by antagonism. They hide their ideology because they know it's widely unpopular to everyone, but say maybe 25% of the population. And from a more pragmatic and structural thing, voter suppression is why they lost.
Yeah,
it's like they're refusing to so Marcos Molitsas can blame North Carolina, basically. The people who are blaming the Republicans or blaming the left for why Clinton lost, really, this is just a combination of them being, upset psychologically. Their ego has been bruised by the fact that whoever Clinton, who they supplant their ego with again, who their hero, their Khaleesi, their Hermione, their what other bullshit characters from fantasies that people like? I don't know. Chun-Li from Street Fighter, whatever.
One of the problems is that they're not even good at it. Republicans use a very similar strategy, and that's what Democrats have tried to do. Is they're trying to emulate it, thinking that if we do what they do, we can win. But they're not even good at it. They don't even get how to do it with the people that they have to work with. It's like Republicans have a certain set of people that they're working with, and they're very attuned to the dog whistling and to all those types of things, and to rallying them in such a way. Democrats are terrible at it. They have no idea how to talk to progressives and be taken seriously.
And look at what Fox News does with that messaging, like you were talking about with the dog whistling. Fox News stays on fucking message no matter what. No matter how horrible it is, they stay on message. And meanwhile, on the center left, MSNBC and all of those places, like you were just talking about, they'll allow David Frum to argue the point against Trump. It's kind of like they don't have that stay on message. And so they are incredibly bad at it. They're incredibly bad at their own propaganda.
Well, it's because they ride the center. I think people pretend like this is some sort of capitulation on their part. So we can talk about David Frum. We could talk about the liberal desire to both be incredibly vindictive against those who they view not on their side. And I think me and Adair both touched on this in our articles, that they wish death upon people who don't agree with them. And a large part of that is it's because they're deflecting blame off of themselves, because a lot of people's job ride on the job security. I mean, the idea that the Clinton's loss was somehow either unavoidable or the result of some sort of vast conspiracy, or that she was the victim. Their psychological health, emotional well-being relies on the fact that she's, they're not a loser and she's not a loser. But really, they lost because they didn't stand up to voter suppression in places like Michigan, places like North Carolina, places like Pennsylvania. 75,000 people black people in Detroit were purged from the voting rolls.
Right.
That's the state right there. But they didn't want to come out. Yeah, but they didn't want to come out and fight this prior to it, because another problem that they have is they don't want to appear to be they don't want to be critiqued by the right. They're like, they are so desperate for the approval of Republicans. This goes like about David Frum. Like, liberals are so liberals are so fucking stupid that they get off on the idea that they are, closing this gap between them and Republicans. They get off on the idea that Republicans are coming over to their side for no matter what the reason their side is. They get off on the idea like Obama does of going across the aisle. Even if you're not really going across the aisle, they're just agreeing with you either for political expediency because they're sociopaths, they don't have any pride, or to get back in the limelight. David Frum should be in jail.
Yes,
but now he's going to be on TV because he said something. He said something critical about Trump, and Democrats love that.
I just
they
wanted
love
to
when
get
their
back to a
enemies
point that you made
agree
earlier, but about like that. When Democrats were empowering unions and when they were making moves that were actually helping people, 50, 60 years ago almost now, it was made a big difference. And what they've been switched to now is essentially we're going to lose less to the Republicans than we would lose if we weren't in the way of them, essentially. And that's their winning message. And you see it with them celebrating losing a vote on healthcare in the House. Like, just losing less badly is their new victory, is the new winning for them.
They literally started singing when the AHCA passed the House. They literally started to celebrate people being ready to die.
Well, they
Fuck the Democrats.
They like the boogeyman. But this leads me to a question I wanted to ask. I wanted to pose to you guys. So, like, we can't, the Republicans are evil and Democrats are stupid, or the Republicans are evil and Democrats are complicit in that evil. And so really, I personally, there's a lot of hullabaloo over like the Justice Democrats and the brand new Congress and all of these other like dim-centered organizations that are so desperate to take over that, national apparatus because they like the idea of being in, sorry for that, siren in the background. They like the idea, again, they like the idea of having that national viability out of the gate. But from my perspective, I don't think that there's any room, at least as it exists now, to work within the Democratic Party. I think, and this is, I'm going to tie it back into Russia, this refusal for people like Nancy Pelosi to come out in favor of single payer, what that tells me is that this Russia, albatross, this Russia witch hunt, this ghost story between Trump and Russia is their electoral strategy for 2018. Like that's what that tells me. Like this is their electoral strategy. 2018. Remember, we got to win back the Senate because Trump is going to turn us all into Irkutsk.
Well, like I said on the last time I was on, this literally goes back to internal polling from the Clinton campaign in 2015, showing that the New York Times Russia piece on her selling uranium to Russian interests was the biggest negative that she had. So they turned it around and asked them outright what I think the polling question was something along the lines of, if you were to collude with a foreign nation and it was Russia, how would you feel about the candidate? And they saw internally that this was a big negative. So they started running against Bernie when they said he had a honeymoon in Russia. And then they started running it against Trump. And then in the book Shattered, it shows that the Clinton campaign got out of that meeting, and in the first night after the election, they were sitting around with Shake Shack boxes talking about how we're going to spin this, and Russia.
Shake Shack is awful. I'm sorry. Shake Shack. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Shake Shack is like, of all like the little high end, like mid to mid end burger places, Shake Shack is the worst. Like Five Guys is good. In-N-Out is great. Cheeseburger is good. And Bear Burger is great as well. If you want to try some sort of weird meat, and that's not a sex thing, whatever.
Okay.
Or can be. But Shake Shack shows me that they make poor decisions. But please finish your story.
So they're sitting around with Shake Shack empty containers and decided that the best way to spin this and the most effective message that they could have was Russia. So this is literally coming out of the Clinton campaign. And it just, like you said, this is their electoral strategy for 2018, because rather than saying, hey, we just lost, maybe we should run on a platform that's really appealing to everybody, they said, nah, let's turn around and blame Russia so we can keep doing the same shit and get the same money from the same motherfuckers.
Yeah, and
Well, yeah, they don't want to be held.
I would imagine that we could, if we had access to all of their email accounts, there's still similar emails going to the media, and these stories aren't just manifesting out of nowhere. That a lot of these leaks are coming from people loyal to the Clinton camp, and so on and so forth. Go ahead, Brandon. Can
I put forth this interpretation of American politics? I've only been working in political media for a long time, but here's what I see to be the problem, right? So. And I think we see this played out with this bullshit horseshoe theory that's coming up a lot too. And so you can all disagree with me if you want to. Shake Shack is shit. No, I'm sorry. That's not what I was going to say. We're not sponsored by Five Guys. But no, here's what I'm going to say. The Democratic Party has a unique problem to the Republican Party. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party at its highest levels both want the same thing. For, basically to replace public goods with private market, they replace the social contract with to replace some social safety net with some sort of means-tested abomination that really eventually ends up being privatized anyway, to replace human rights with private property rights, and turns basically into some sort of weird corporate fiefdom. That's neoliberalism. That's the center. That's what it is. The problem becomes with the right, and this is why the center right is better able to embrace the far right than the center left is with the far left, is because the far right can mobilize their base on these sort of issues of weird culture problems, right? So let's say, as opposed to being mad about the fact that the Koch brothers have more money than everyone in America combined, they can shift that effectively to be, well, really the reason why you don't have a job is because starting in the 1950s, immigration laws and more Mexicans came in, and they're all taking, that Mexican stole your job at Shake Shack. The problem is, so they're able to, that's how neoliberalism empowers the far right, right? We know that story. It's a very old story. The problem is the center left, they do not have a narrative that is similar and compelling to the far right, because the far left identifies the problem with, the populist left, for lack of a better word, right? Identifies the problem with society as being capitalism. There is no way for the center left, the Democrats, to mobilize the far left the way the far right, the Republicans do the far right, because they have to keep that weird balancing act with, also being heavily in favor of capital, which you just can't do. The underlying ideology of the Democratic Party is antithetical to what their base wants in a way that the right doesn't have.
Yeah, they've already gotten them to buy into the whole, being a billionaire is basically the pinnacle of social, achievement. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why they can't beat Trump. Honestly, they set the stage for a person like Trump to come. Neoliberalism as an ideology, not just an economic system, because capitalism economic system, neoliberalism is the mode of thought that inflicts upon you, made the Trump presidency so possible in so many different ways, because it empowers the far right, and also it makes the idea of being just a successful billionaire tantamount to being just a saint. Every time they point to his taxes, I'm like, what are you doing? No one cares how much money he makes. It's you have as much money as he does. This is crazy.
And this backs up what you're making, is that if you look at who they're touring around and who's getting column inches and headlines, Mark Zuckerberg is that bastard. Is touring around.
I want to hear that.
He's touring around America on a pre-presidential tour.
I don't want to hear about the head of Snapchat doing anything. Adair, it's your turn. You say something not about Mark Zuckerberg or Mark Cuban or
I literally don't. I just feel like we're having. It's just at the end of the day, all we end up doing is spinning our wheels.
Yep.
There's not going to be any legitimate change in this country. There's not going to be any legitimate moving forward in this country until we finally get tired of it and tear down the system brick by brick by brick. And this is something that, especially just because I was checking Twitter and saw that some trolls decided to mess with some PA people, so I get to have fun tonight, folks, because I'm a jerk. I like to fight with people on Twitter, so please send me some bullshit. Anyways. What a lot of people on this so-called on the so-called left, these so-called liberals, don't seem to understand is that, generally speaking, and this in particular for people of color, our oppression is not tied to the ballot box, but rather tied to the system that implemented the ballot box. Therefore, no solutions for our liberation can come from the ballot box. They must come from the dismantling of this system as a whole, and it's just a wholesale replacement. Get that? Just understand that. You're worried about Trump. I'm worried about not being murdered by police. We have vastly different worries. One of my professors, and she means well, was talking about, I'm going to go, I don't like going into the woods by myself. I only go with a friend because I'm a woman. I was like, in reply to me saying, I don't go camping because it's not safe for me as a black man, just being in a very white, very racist state outside of very small little pockets, I don't go camping. And she's like, oh no, I understand. I don't go into the woods without a friend. I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. I don't even go with groups of people because it is inherently dangerous. The system that implemented the ballot box is the system that is killing people of color right now.
Okay, can I make a point?
Until we change that system.
I agree with the Dare's point. This is a good point. This is a good, not transition topic, but it reminds me of what I was going to say, right? So here's what I don't like to see from like liberals, because it reminds me of how like out of touch they are with reality. It's just like they need to stop appealing to two things to help them, right? Republicans and institutions, because Republicans are not going to come up, step out. I know a lot of people like to live in this mythological, nostalgic past where Republicans were responsible for helping impeach Nixon. That's not what happened. they were pressured by the left. That's not what happened.
It's like we all remember that the Republicans are a big con job most of the time, but suddenly when it comes to the idea that they really hold these institutions to the highest degree, and the rule of law and the Constitution and all those, we don't think that that's bullshit for some reason, even though the violations of people's constitutional amendments in the numbers of millions and for decades hasn't seemed to bother them enough to get into the streets. But go on.
There has never been a point in American history where the Constitution has applied to everybody equally, and there's such a huge difference between the law and law use, and also morality. Those are three different things: morality, law, and law use, and they are not the same thing. And so when I see people the reason why people are appealing to the deep state is because liberals like the idea that, these institutions are going to save us, the police are going to save us, and that's what makes them so lukewarm about demonizing the police when they shoot like 80 black people for like a month since the beginning of the United States of America, because they still believe in the idea of the institution, right? And by institution, I mean both the agency and also the law itself. And so you have people coming out and writing these op-eds about, Trump firing Comey is the end of the republic and the end of the democracy, and all of these these lofty ideas are finally dying with Trump. And I warn you to stop that, because that makes Trump seem like a unique evil. And again, if you think that, you're wrong. If you think Trump is the unique evil, you're wrong. If you think Trump is worse than George W. Bush, you're wrong.